Hey everyone, it's sfreezy back with our deep dive deck tech. This time we're going through my own personal list for Raffine Scheming Seer. We're going to go through all the card choices and strategy to maximize this aggressive reanimator deck. Raffine does a lot of things aggressively and efficiently. She's a flying 1/4 for Esper colors with ward 1, and she reads, whenever you attack, target attacking creature connives X, where X is the number of attacking creatures. So you want to go Y with the basic threats, and then put fatties in the yard to reanimate. Keywords are nice here, more than the actual stats of the creatures that you're attacking with, because she can pump the bodies to massive threats on their own. Notably, your opponents can respond to the connive trigger and kill the creature, kind of ruining your day. You really want to make sure you're packing counter spells and creatures that are hard to target. Connive is like looting on steroids. You draw and discard a card, but if the discarded card is non-land, you put 1/1 counter on the creature. This works especially well with MDFCs, and in our deck we're going to see a lot of cards because we're going to be attacking with a lot of small creatures. It's important to note that connive itself is not card advantage. We need to utilize the right card choices to make sure that we're putting cards in the graveyard that want to be there for that card advantage. On the creature side, we have Bloodghast and Bloodsoaked Champion. These cards can be discarded and then brought back for free in Bloodghast case or Bloodsoaked Champion. The mirror 2 mana and a re-attack, which we're going to be doing hopefully every turn. Next, we have Vengeful Pharaoh, 2 and triple black for a 5/4 death touch. You don't care about that. You only want to discard this, have it kill a creature that attacked you, put it back on top of your library, and then draw it, and then discard it again. This will repeatedly let you kill an attacking creature. The downside is totally mitigated by the fact that you're looting every single turn. Another auto include for this deck is Sneaky Snacker. It's Demir for a flying 2/1. You're not going to be casting it though, you're going to discard it, and then whenever you draw your third card in a turn, you can return it from the graveyard to the battlefield tapped. You only need 2 attackers with Raffine out to get this back. Next, we have 2 Renewcomers from Dragonstorm with Tarkir. The first is Rot Cursor Rakshas, 1 in a black for a creature demon. It's got Trample and Decayed, which kind of sucks because it can't block, but we're often not casting this creature. We're going to discard it and then use its renew ability, which is black, black, and X to exile from your graveyard, and put a decay counter on each of X target creatures, activate as a sorcery. This will remove blockers, and then even better, when they go to their turn and they attack, the creatures that you use this ability on will die. It'll also just brutally murder any Skullbriar players, so that's kind of nice too. We've also got Carcer Revenant, one of my favorites, 1 black black. It's got Flying, Death Touch, Lifelink. This is the new Vampire Nighthawk. It's also got Renew to exile from your graveyard to put those same keywords, Flying, Death Touch, and Lifelink, on another creature you control. And then if that wasn't enough, it's also got 1 more power than Nighthawk. And the art is freaking sweet. It's this masked vampire looking thing with a giant tongue. Love this card. Master of Death is very similar to Vengeful Pharaoh, that we're almost never casting it. 1 black blue. Doesn't really matter, but it's a 3/1 with an ETB, Surveil 2. More importantly, at the beginning of your upkeep, if it's in your graveyard, you can pay 1 life. If you do, return it to your hand. This gives you that free discard fodder to make Connive actual card advantage. The last creature that spends more time in the yard than our hand is Woe Strider, 2 in a black. It's a 3/2. When it ETBs, you make a 0/1 white goat creature token. Sack another creature, scry 1, and has escape, which is why it's great. Except for the cards from your graveyard to put it back in the battlefield. And it escapes as a 5/4 instead of a 3/2. This is mostly in here for our combo, which I'll explain later, but it's a nice card to just have card advantage from the graveyard because it sits there and whenever you need it, you can just play it. For this deck, whenever you discard a card and it's still usable, you've gotten value, which is kind of what the deck is built around. After those spells you want to see in the yard. Lingering Souls is everything we want to be doing. It makes up to 4 bodies, but more realistically, you'll discard it, draw a fresh card, and then make 2 bodies with 2 mana, and they both fly. So this gives you ways to proc Raffine. It's a card to discard to Raffine. This card is just some nice glue for the deck. This commander wants you to run a deck that's a well-oiled machine, and the synergy will really make it hum. Next, we have 3 flashbackable reanimator spells. You can often just cast the front half and then cast the back half, but if you do discard it, Savines lets you get back 2 permanents with CMC 3 or less, including our commander. Dread Return is basically free because we have so many weenies lying around, and then Burial Rites is the weakest of the 3 with a 4 mana reanimate cost. We're also running Actual Factual Reanimate. Unearth because it's our commander and also lets us cycle to discard cards, which is another sub-theme of our deck. Restart Sequence because we're going to be attacking our commander as much as we can. Victimize because again we'll have those weenies sacrifice to get back giant fatties. And Stitch Together, which will almost always be turned on because we're discarding so many cards. Next, we've got 2 powerful, repeatable reanimate effects. First, you have Cthulhu Nightmare, 1 in the black. When it ETBs, you get 3 energy. You can pay X energy, sack a creature, return Nightmare to its owner's hand, and return target creature card with mana value X from your graveyard to the battlefield. Activate only as a sorcery. This will let us trade into Weenie for Raffine. If we bank energy by getting something smaller than 3 CMC, or by having Guide of Souls, we can actually get bigger targets later. This works powerfully with Luris because it's a permanent, and this card will make sure that if we have any creature lying around, we can get our commander back, no problem. We also have Virtual Persistence, 5 black black for an enchantment. As we near upkeep, put our creature card from graveyard in the battlefield under control. This is notably not just our graveyard, though it most likely will be. We built our deck so that we have good targets. But also for 1 in the black as a sorcery. Give target creature -3/-3 until end of turn, and you gain 2 life. This enchantment has an adventure, so if you use that removal spell early, which you might have to, you can still use the enchantment later for that reanimate every turn. From spells alone, we're running 10 reanimator effects. But wait, there's more. Sun Titan is one of our bombs, but it's also got vigilance, so it's almost always attacking, and when it attacks or enters, it gets back our commander to make sure we can trigger connive every turn. We've got Luris, this card's a house, we've got so many weenies to cast again and again, and the lifelink is also super nice when you pump it. Karmic Guide helps with the combo, but also as a reanimator spell on a body. Junji the Midnight Sky, it's a 5 mana 5/5 with flying and menace, or you can reanimate it for 2 mana or less, and then it has 2 effects. When it dies, either each opponent discards 2 cards and loses 2 life, or you can reanimate a non-dragon card from your graveyard, and then you lose 2 life.
And we do have 2 ways to do this at instant speed.
Next, we've got Snapcaster Mage to give flashback to your animator spell. One of my favorite things to do is Luris into Snapcaster and to reanimate a big fatty, or Sun Titan into Luris into Snapcaster and to reanimate a big fatty.
We're also running No Priest of Oblivion. It's 1 and a black for a Vampire Cleric, 2/1 with Menace and Lifelink, which is great for our +1/+1 counter synergies. It's a nice attacker. But then separately, when it ETBs, if it was kicked, you can return target creature card from your to battlefield. And the kicker is Zombify. So this is the thing you can buy back with Luris and reanimate again and again. We see and bin a lot of cards, so all these reanimator effects will make it very hard to keep us down. We'll almost always be both a fast deck, but also a resilient deck.
At its core, this is an aggro deck, but you will go toe-to-toe with the grindiest of mid-ranges and come out on top. Speaking of cards that grind, have you seen Jackdaw Savior? I'm just kidding, I know you haven't. It's 2 and white for a flying 3/1. Whenever it or another creature you control with flying dies, return another creature card with lesser mana value from graveyard to the battlefield. So with a sack outlet and a stock graveyard with maybe a flyer that can reanimate something, when it enters, this will go infinite. Even without that, even ignoring this flying 3 drops near infinite potential, this card just accrues values so easily. If you have a way to sacrifice creatures, you can constantly take things in and out of the yard, maybe things that have ETB effects. With a sack out in play, this card can do basically anything with your yard. It single-handedly made me pivot to only flyers and remove all unblockable from this deck. The flyers are just that much better because you can just chain them off. There is no once per turn limit. If they target your 6-drop, you can sack it to get a 5-drop, which you can sack to get a 4-drop, which you can sack to get a 3-drop, 2-drop, 1-drop, 0-drop if you got it. I don't, but you get the point. It's also Wrath Insurance, and if they kill it, it's a 2-for-1. If you get nothing else from this video, put Jackdaw Savior in your flyers deck. You will not regret it. Stick 2 horns on this bird because it's a flying goat. Speaking of flyers, let's talk about the weenies.
We're running Swooping Lookout. It's a 1 mana 1/2 with Flying and Vigilance, no other effects, but the stats are nice. Vigilance is great because it lets us attack, pump it, and then have a good blocker.
Fairy Dream Thief is 1 black for a flying 1/1. When it enters, you surveil 1, which helps our graveyard deck. And then for 2 and a black, you can exile from your graveyard if you discarded it maybe, or it just died, to draw a card and lose 1 life. You've got Fairy Seer. When it enters, scry 2. Judge's Familiar, an easy to cast 1/1 that you can sacrifice to counter target instant or sorcery spell unless the controller pays 1. Lyran Stormtamer, 1 blue for a flying 1/1, but you can sacrifice it and pay a blue to counter target spell or ability that targets you or a creature you control, including your commander or big fatties. This deck wants to run Disruption on bodies to make sure we're getting those attacks in, so we're also running Essior, Orbiting Familiar, 1 in a blue for a flyer. Spells your opponent's cast to target 1 more commanders you control, costs 3 more to cast. We have Selfless Spirit, 1 in a white for a 2/1 flyer. You can sacrifice to give your creature indestructible. This is especially fun to surprise opponents with off a Jackdaw Savior trigger. And Goldforge Stoptrix, Azorius for a flying lifelinker. Each legendary permanent you control has ward 2. All these effects will supplement your commander's ward 1 to make sure it's very annoying to try and stop you. And so even if you are doing the most broken thing at the table, the tax will make them disincentivized to target you with the removal. And even if they do, your deck is the best at rebuilding. Now for some of the spicier weenies. Guide of Souls is 1 white for a 1/2. Modern players know this card is almost bannably good. It's a soul sister that gives you energy, and you can pay that energy to make creatures bigger and give them flying, which will help you trigger Jackdaw Savior, and also just push through damage. This card is too good to be a 1-drop. Next, we've got Stormscape Familiar, 1 in a blue for a flying 1/1. It reduces the cost of your white and black spells, so this will make your reanimator spells even cheaper and more efficient. Next, we got Baleful Strix, Flying Death Touch 1/1 for Demir. When it enters, draw a card. For 1 in a blue, Ledger Shredder is a 1/3 flyer that grows whenever a player casts a second spell each turn. It connives. This includes you and opponents, and our spells are so efficient this will happen almost every one of our turns, but then our opponents will help us draw and discard through our entire deck with this card, as well as pumping itself. We've also got Canoptic Scarab Swarm, 4 mana for a 1/1 with flying, but when it enters, exile target player's graveyard, which is super helpful against other reanimator strategies. Make sure you come out on top. For each artifact or land card exiled this way, create a 1/1 colorless insect artifact token with flying. This will help you get a wide board to trigger those connives. And we have Mischievous Mystic. It lets you make a 1/1 fairy and redraw your second card each turn, and it's a flying 2/1 in itself. So this will help you make bodies to connive with to make more bodies. From Tuck here is Sinkhole Surveyor, 1 in a black for a 1/3 with flying. Whenever it attacks, you lose 1 life and this creature endures 1. You can either put a 1 counter on it or create a 1/1 spirit creature token. We're going to do the second to opt for more attackers.
Or Trump blockers, but that's how we're running the card.
I mentioned that connive is not card advantage. We have some creatures that are actual card advantage. First, we have Fairy Mastermind, 1 in the blue for a flash flying 2/1. Whenever an opponent draws a second card each turn, you draw a card, and you can force each player to draw a card for 4 mana. The flying body is nice, and your opponents will draw cards in Commander, and if they're not, you're probably winning that game anyway. The flash body works all the next 2 cards, Welcoming Vampire and Enduring Innocence. Vampire is a flying 2/3. Whenever one or more other creatures' powers feel less enter the battlefield under your control, draw a card. This triggers only once each turn. Each turn is relevant for the flash stuff, and the flying is super relevant for your flying synergies. Enduring Innocence has lifelink, which is not as good as flying, but it's nice to pump, and has the same draw card ability. But when it dies, it returns as an enchantment, which is nice because it gives that extra level of resilience. With this Sack Outlet and Jackdaw Savior in play, you can trigger this on each opponent's turn. Next, we have Twilight Prophet, 2 and 2 black for a 2/4 flying. It has Descend, so if you have the City's Blessing, with 10 or more permanents, you get Descend for the rest of the game. And if you do it, Descend. At the beginning of each upkeep, you reveal the top card of your library, put it into your hand, not draw. Each opponent loses X life, and you gain X life for X cards for the mana cost. This is an aggro deck, but a lot of our cards have high CMC because we're also reanimating. On top of that, we have cards that we cast for free that would cost mana otherwise, in terms of checking their mana cost on top of the library. And the room we have is actually 11 mana. Plus, we are maximizing our MDFCs for that connive value. So your average hit is going to be higher than even like a mid-range deck because you are running all these extra ways to pump that like virtual CMC at the top of your library. And if you can find and discard Vengeful Pharaoh, the top of your library is always going to be a drain for 5.
Because our commander is a demon, we're running Unholy Annex. In your end step, draw a card. If you control a demon, each opponent loses 2 life, you gain 2 life, otherwise you lose 2 life. This will drain our opponents at end step and draw a card if we have our commander out, and if not, it's still just better for X Arena. And then even more than that, you have Ritual Chamber in the second half. Whenever you unlock this door, create a 6/6 black demon creature token with flying, which is just a pretty huge body to have as purely gravy. Another discard deck all-star is Archie of Ifnir, 3 and 2 black for a 5/4 flyer. Whenever you cycle or discard another card, put a -1/-1 counter on each creature your opponents control. It has cycling too, but we really want to get this card into play and then just use our Raffine triggers to shrink our entire opponent's board by like -4/-4. The astute viewer may have realized I have not gone into ramp and we're about 9 minutes in the video. However, that's mostly because this deck barely wants ramp at all. You only want ramp that gives you color mana for your commander, and realistically you want attacker on 1, attacker or 2 attackers on 2, and then commander on 3. You want to just get swinging, and even though we have high cost cards in this deck, we never want to cast them for that high cost. We want to reanimate. And the best way to do that is to churn through our deck using connive and drawing and discarding those cards. Despite having tons of bombs, this deck's curve realistically caps out at around 5. A lot of our highest CMCs are actually split cards like the rooms, and the first half is less than 3 for each of them. And on top of that, we again are drawing so many cards. We actually run a lot of lands relative to our curve because of our MDFC. So with that massive preamble out of the way, we're running Legion's Landing, which enters and makes a body, and you can turn into a land that ramps you whenever you attack with 3 or more creatures, which we want to do pretty often. We're also running Arcane Signet to give us those mana that are colored, and that is all. It's not officially ramp, but we're running Gift of Estates to kind of catch us up and get us extra cards in hand to help with the conniving. We're in Esper, so we've got a lot of great removal options. One of the main ones we have is Void Rend. It's Esper for a spell that can't be countered. Destroy target online permanent. This will get around pesky ward stuff that our opponents may have. We're also running Path to Exile and Dam. So Dam is nice because we're an aggro deck and we often don't want the full wrath. So having the single target option is great. And then if we need a wrath and we're behind somehow, we can blow up the board. Path is just an obvious great removal spell. We're running this over swords because we have the option of pathing one of our weenies to ramp ourselves, and also we're not gaining our opponent's life when we want to be reducing the life total to 0. We're running Arcane Denial over Counterspell here because it's easier on our mana base with the pips. And then secondly, we want to be drawing cards and just maintaining our full grip. The best things in life are free, and given we're at sometimes tap out aggro, It's great to have free interaction, so we're running Deadly Relic and Fierce Guardianship. The free counterspell and free removal is nice, and Relic even exiles. We want to just do our thing as fast as possible, and these cards enable that.
And now, the best part of any Reanimator deck, the bombs. First up is Dream Trawler, 2 and double Azorius for a flying lifelink 3/5 Sphinx. Whenever you draw a card, it gets +1/+0 until end of turn. And whenever it attacks, draw a card. You can discard a card to give it hexproof until end of turn and tap it. This card protects itself, it enables your discard strategies, and also just gets an absolutely massive attack boost whenever you trigger Raffine. And even just in a vacuum, it's a flying lifelink 4/5 that protects itself. So this card is amazing. Next, we got Phyrexian Fleshgorger. It's 7 mana for a 7/5 with Menace and lifelink, wired pay life with equal to its power, but we're running it because of the prototype ability. Just as casted for only 3 mana for a 3/3, same abilities. The flexibility is key here, and this card loves being pumped, and it's very hard to target for our opponents if they're low on life. Next, we've got Archon of Cruelty, 6 and 2 black for a flying 6/6. Whenever it enters or attacks, target opponent sacks a creature or planeswalker, discards a card and loses 3 life. You draw a card and gain 3 life. This card will make one opponent very, very sad. I omitted these next 2 creatures in the card draw section because they draw an absolute truckload of cards, so they deserve their own section. We have Wind Raider Sphinx, 5 and 2 blue for a 3/7 flyer. Whenever any creature with flying attacks, you may draw a card. This is any creature from any player. This card will draw you an insane amount cards. Next, you have Nezahal Primal Tide, same mana cost for a 7/7, can't be countered, you have no maximum hand size. Whenever an opponent casts an creature spell, draw a card, and you can discard 3 cards to blink it, and it enters tapped to the next end step. This will help you keep it alive, but on top of that, it enables your stuff like Archfiend of Ifnir to just destroy your opponent's board whenever you want. Now we're going to get into the sneaky combo section of the deck. The fun part about this is every piece is kind of playable on its own in our reanimator strategy anyway. I've already mentioned our linchpin Jackdaw Savior. It will allow you to discard away your combo pieces early to then reanimate them later as long as you have a sack outlet in play. Speaking of sack outlets, Vishkal Blood Arbor is massive. 4 white, black, black for a flying lifelink. You have the ability to sacrifice a creature and put X/1/1 counters on Vishkal, where X is creature's power, which should be pretty high in your deck of pumping creatures. And you can remove all counters from it to give a creature -1/-1 until turn for each counter removed this way. So this by itself is just a threat and removal engine. It gets huge. It's got flying and lifelink to make sure you stay alive, and then will shrink your opponent's stuff whenever you feel like it. So this card is great on its own. Separately, it's a sack outlet for the combo. We already mentioned, whoa, Strider, our other sack outlet, which is also escapable. Even if you discard this early or they kill it, you can get it back without a reanimator spell. All of our sack outlets are instant speed and free. Now we have the drain on creature death effects. We have Vein Ripper, 3 and 3 black for a 6/5, flying ward, sacrifice a creature. Whenever a creature dies, target opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. We're also running Funeral Room / Awakening Hall. This card pulls double duty as both a drain on death effect and also a way to mass reanimate our creatures. One thing I would caution against is playing out the first half if you don't have a way to use it, because if the opponent sees the first half, they will not allow the second half to happen. It will end the game. So you kind of have to pick and choose, like, do I want to drain and go for the combo kill, or do I want to just save this and then mass reanimate for a win with attacking? This brings us to the loops. With Karmic Guide, a 6-drop flyer, and Jackdaw Savior, drain effect, sack effect in play, you can infinitely drain the entire table. What makes this diabolical is, with Karmic Guide and the sack effects, you can just instantly dodge any removal because you can respond at instant speed and bring things in and out of the yard whenever you want. And it's a new creature, so they can't even target it. This may sound like a lot to accomplish, but remember, our graveyard is an extension of our hand and to a lesser extent our battlefield. Things are just constantly revolving in, out of our hand, graveyard, battlefield, and you can discard combo pieces to the graveyard to save them for later. This deck, even outside of full combos, you can get like Karmic Guide into Archon of Cruelty to just kill your opponents as well. But that's more of a finisher than a combo because it's limited by the size of your deck and you're drawing through a lot of your deck. Now for lands, we're mostly focused on fixing here because we want to cast our commander on 3 almost every game if we can. I will go into some that are special kind of like spell slots for lands. We're also running Field of the Dead because we want to get extra bodies on board to make sure we're getting Connive Trick. 2 best spell slot ones are Portal Carfel and Tomb Fortress. These effects will let us reanimate a creature from our yard, Carfel being instant speed, which is even better, and we also mill first for both of them. These cards are amazing. They're a must in any Dimir X deck, and the sacrifice land just doesn't matter as much for us because, again, we're not really casting high-cost cards, we're only reanimating, so we often won't need lands to get to 5 or 6. In addition to the looting, with so many of our lands being effectively spells, we have a ton of flood insurance. You should never feel like you only drew lands with this deck. As far as MDFCs go, we got a lot that matter. Glasspool mimics a 3-drop that you can get back with Sun Titan to get back something else because it becomes a copy of Sun Titan. Sink into Stupor bounces things that are either blocking us or harming us in some way. You can also take a spell off the stack and put it back in the opponent's hand, maybe a Wrath or something like Supreme Verdict that couldn't normally be countered. We've got Seagate Restoration, we draw a lot of cards, and if we can actually cast this, we'll have a maximum hand size that's infinite, and we will make good use of that. Amaria's Call makes our non-agents indestructible, which is, I'm pretty sure, all of our creatures, and makes 2 4/4 white angel creature tokens with flying, which will help us trigger Connive and get attacks going. Wish Enchanter blows up enchantments, and it's just a body to get back. And Bogart Troller hits the opponent's graveyard, and is again a body. These are super important because when you discard them, they don't count as land. This will help pump our team with Connive triggers, and separately, like, increases the CMC for things like Twilight Prophet. These cards are very powerful in this deck. In general, but especially in this deck. The ones that are creatures getting an extra boost in relevance because they can be reanimated or brought back. Aghanim Awakening is a mass reanimate spell, only for certain CMCs, but for our deck, we're very spread out over the curve, so this will actually be very effective for us. Silent Clearing draws a card. You sacrifice it because, again, we're not super land dependent in this deck. If we have 4 or 5 lands, we can cast pretty much everything we want to cast. Minas Tirith can often enter our tapped, but I think the upside is worth it. You can draw cards off this land if you attack with 2 or more creatures for only the near cost of 3 mana, which is pretty solid. Then lastly, for lands that act like spells, Takenuma Abandoned Mire and Otawara Shrine City, the first will mill and then get us back a creature card, and the second will bounce things our opponents control. After that, we're running Maximum Fixing, Field of the Desert only colorless land. We're running Fetches, Shocks, and the Surveil lands, Raffine's Tower because it's flavorful and it has 3 colors,
We're also running all the check opponents lands that are 2 colors, City of Brass, and Command Tower. That about wraps up for Raffine. I hope you enjoyed this deep dive deck. This is one of my favorite commanders. I've had this deck for a long time, and I feel like every set they give it some new toys to try out. If you like aggro and reanimating, which I personally do, this is the deck for you. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe on YouTube to sfreezy or Commander Wendy's. And as always, let me know if you want any decks that you'd like to see in the future. Here are some links to other deck techs and maybe some of my other videos, and I hope you guys stay frosty out there.